My rideshare friends, my YouTube subscribers, I hope you're having an amazing day. When it comes to the options rent versus buy, right? Or rent versus I own my current car, which direction should I go? So I want to start off with the top one, and that is if you have very bad credit and you have very little cash in your pocket or in your bank, and I'm judging no one, right? I'm just trying to come up with a solution for everyone, and most importantly, the right solution. If you don't have credit, and like I said, you don't have money, I wouldn't even think twice. I would get into a rental. I would shop around between, Hertz, Fair, Hire Car, Turo. There's many out there. Shop around and get the best rate for a category that's busy. And I would say UberX. Most of these cars are actually only available to that category, right? So unless you go through an operator in the higher classes like SUV Black or Lux, some cities have operators that will rent high-end cars, right? But those are mainly in the metropolitan cities. So in that scenario, the way to go is rent. And you are definitely looking at about $800 to $1,000 per month for that vehicle, for the rental. And you got to put in a lot of hours, right? Because if you think that $9,600 to $12,000 in rentals, is a big overhead per year, going straight to the rental company. So you actually have to put in insane hours. It is completely possible that if you really want to go for it and, put in 40, 50, 60-hour weeks, pay the car rental. You don't have a car, you don't have credit, you don't have money. So this is the way to go. You put money aside, maybe a year down the line, you've accumulated enough money, and now you can put down a substantial deposit on a car, right? I'm going to jump to the very last scenario in my options list, and that is if there's a specific use, like let's say your family is getting bigger, another baby's on the way, you already have 2 or 3 kids, you might say, hey, you know what? It's time to get a minivan, and I'm going to use that minivan towards the rideshare, obviously driving an Uber and Lyft, and it's going to double up. My wife can use it to drive the kids around, pick them up for sports game. So that's what I would call like a smart decision if you're combining your family matters with business matters, right? Another one would be, hey, you know what? I want to do my real estate license, which I've encouraged a lot of you out there to do. It's very easy to do it online. And you know what? I'm going to get myself a nice car because me, the real estate agent, that's going to be my first line of business. And then I'm going to do a lot of, part-time hours, maybe another 15, 20 hours on the side with that new vehicle that I'm buying for real estate purposes, but I'm going to use it for Uber and Lyft. And I'm going to advertise my services in the car, hopefully pick up a buyer or a seller, right? Okay. Now, if you have a good credit, right? You don't have a car, but you have a good credit and you want to get into this game. You really have to look at the rent versus buying a new car with your new credit, right? Your good credit. And if you want to play it safe, UberX is the route to go. As I mentioned already, the hybrids, the Toyota, the Camry hybrids, the Insight Honda or the Civic are great cars. And you could pick those up anywhere from $18,000 to $25,000, right? That's a brand new car. It's going to give you 4 years full out driving, right? You could put tons of miles on it, and you got to ask yourself, hey, if I rent for 4 years, right, at $9,000 to $12,000 a year on rentals, and is it worthwhile buying a new car? Absolutely, right? Because you're looking at about $25,000, $26,000 for a new car versus at least $36,000 to $40,000 on rentals. That's actually what you're going to be paying that rental company. So it's a no-brainer. At that point, you have super high miles, right? and you might want to offload it after 4 years. You've put on 150 to 180,000 miles on that car. You might be able to offload it for a new few $1,000s towards a down payment on your next car. So that's how I would handle that, my friends. Now, if I have a vehicle, right, that's fairly new, and when I say fairly new, I mean under 60,000 miles, right, versus renting. Now, do we have a second car in the family? Do I have a second car that I just use for, other business purposes, going to parties, events, and I'm going to use this car, this used car that has under 60,000 miles for rideshare with Uber or Lyft, right? Versus should I go out and rent? Again, you truly have to crunch the numbers. What is that car worth at that moment? If it has 50, 60,000 miles, if you were to sell it through Car Gurus or Craigslist or any one of the websites, what would you be getting for this car, right? Again, I would continue putting on miles on that car. I would not go the rental route, right? And this again is based on the fact that you have a car that's about under 60,000 miles. Now, if you have a car with about medium range mileage, and I'm talking 60,000 to 120,000 miles, you got to consider that you might have another 2 good years with Uber and Lyft with that particular car, right? You might run up another 80, 90,000 miles with that car or more in those 2 years. And, is it worth selling that car and trying to go out and get a new car? You probably won't get much for it. Is it worth renting? Absolutely not, right? I always put the rent versus buy a car or use my own car scenario. And truly, the only time rentals really work out best is if you have no credit and no money, right? Then I say all in, do insane hours, right? And that could be a student starting off with no credit. And again, nobody is judging you. There's a scenario for everyone. Now, if I have a car that has ultra high mileage, and I'm talking 150, 160, 180, 200,000 plus, right? Probably several years old, who knows? Might be able to go, you got to check with Uber and Lyft. Some cities will take 2006 models, 2001 models. You got to see if your car qualifies. That car with a high mileage might not even qualify at all, right? And you're basically forced to go out and buy a new car or rent. In that case, what can I get for that car with ultra high miles? I would definitely put it on the market, see what the market gives me as offers, right? And then do I put that down as a down payment for a new car? Why? Because my car just doesn't qualify. I can't, make the requirements for that city, or I have a year or two left. Let me just go until this car packs up, right? Get some money, put it aside, then decide if you want to go after a year or two buy a new car. Now, a mistake that many people do, I'm guilty of it as well. When you're starting out and you own your first car, let's say you're a student and you're driving in rideshare, we tend to ignore some of the basic repairs because we just don't want to spend that money. I'll tell you what, it'll come back and bite you big time. So for example, if you have a car that has super high mileage and you start getting into the rideshare business and putting on a lot of extra miles, you're going to hit a big transmission problem at about 140, 150,000 miles, right? So make sure you change your transmission oil. Yeah, it's probably going to cost you $150 to completely put in fresh transmission oil, but that might be the difference between getting another 20,000 extra miles. You want to use synthetic oils at all time. Don't go to Jiffy Lube and buy the cheap oil. Always get synthetic oil. I say always change it after 5,000 to 7,000 miles, right? You will get another 30,000 to 50,000 miles on the back end from your car. That equates to a lot of money here, right, in the rideshare business. Another big one, brakes. When you hear that scraping sound, that's your rotors, my friend. Right away, nip it right there. go and get your brake pads done and pray that your rotors are not destroyed yet, because that could easily cost you another $600 extra dollars on rotors. So rather check your brake pads every few weeks and see if it's just before that scraping sound. It's not scraping yet, but it's way down. Change them, right? Because all of these repairs, if left too late, and a lot of us are guilty on this one, it's going to cost you big money, right? So I've walked you literally through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different scenarios. I've always put their rent versus, and to me, rent doesn't work out in any category. You know, whether it's X, SUV, Lux, it's just too expensive. Now, when I started out in this business, and for a while I was, before I became an operator and I leased out SUVs and cars for $500 to $550 a month in LA, that was the going rate. You know, that's a massive return of investment if I'm buying a car at a dealership auction, a Suburban in 2015 for $25,000, $26,000, and I'm renting this car out at $2,200, right? So I, as the operator, that makes sense if people rent from me. Who rents from me? Usually people that cannot afford to buy that car, but they want to be in that category, or people that don't have the credit score, right? They will happily pay that $500 to $600 per week for one of these big vehicles because the earnings is just so much higher, right? So take that into consideration. But generally speaking, the car rental companies on the market will be your Hertz's, your Fares, your Hire Car, those particular rental companies, and they usually rent small cars. And that only makes sense if there's absolutely no credit established and you just don't have any money in the bank. So please, if you have any questions on this, run your scenario by me. I've listened to tons from different drivers all around the country. Always love to help, and I always love to find the right solution for you. Drive safe.